the $5,000 retirement leak. Nobody talks about. Imagine two retirees who spent 40 years working, saving, and doing everything they were told to do. They both retire at age 67. They both have the same Social Security benefit. They both have similar investment accounts. They both own a home that is fully paid off. On paper, their retirement looks almost identical. But 5 years later, one of them is taking vacations, helping grandchildren, and sleeping comfortably at night. The other is cutting back on spending, worrying about monthly bills, and wondering why retirement feels far more expensive than expected. What happened? Most people assume the difference must be investment performance. Maybe one portfolio earned more. Maybe one retiree made smarter financial decisions. Maybe one simply got lucky. The surprising reality is that neither investment returns nor luck may be the reason. In some cases, the difference comes down to a single factor that receives far less attention than it deserves. The state where retirement happens, and the financial impact can be much larger than most retirees realize. Every year, thousands of retirees unknowingly lose money through a combination of taxes, insurance premiums, healthcare expenses, housing costs, and everyday living expenses that slowly chip away at their retirement income. None of these costs may seem devastating on their own. The problem is what happens when they are combined and repeated year after year. A few $100s here, a few $100s there. A slightly higher insurance bill, a larger property tax payment, more expensive healthcare services, higher utility costs. Over time, those expenses can quietly add up to more than $5,000 annually. That number may not sound life-changing at first, but consider what $5,000 represents to someone living on a fixed retirement income. It could cover months of groceries. It could pay for travel. It could help offset rising medical expenses. It could remain invested and continue supporting future retirement needs. Instead, it disappears into expenses many retirees never fully anticipated. What makes this issue especially frustrating is that it often stays hidden. When people prepare for retirement, they tend to focus on the big numbers. They monitor their investment balances. They estimate Social Security income. They calculate pension payments. They think about withdrawal strategies and market performance. Those things certainly matter. However, what nobody explains clearly enough is that retirement success is not determined only by how much money comes in. It is also determined by how much money quietly goes out. That overlooked detail changes everything. A retiree can have a healthy portfolio and still feel financial pressure if recurring expenses keep rising. Meanwhile, another retiree with similar savings may feel far more comfortable simply because their ongoing costs remain lower. This creates a retirement reality that many people never see coming. The location that seemed perfect during working years may become surprisingly expensive during retirement. A place that appears attractive because of weather, convenience, or familiarity may carry hidden costs that gradually reduce purchasing power over time. And here is where the story becomes even more interesting. There are several states where retirees commonly face these financial challenges. Some are well known for high costs. Others have developed a reputation for being retirement-friendly while quietly becoming more expensive in recent years. In fact, one of the states we will discuss surprises many retirees because it is rarely mentioned in conversations about retirement risks. The difference is not always obvious during the first year. That is what makes the problem so dangerous. Many retirees discover the impact only after years of paying higher bills and watching more of their income disappear than expected. By then, changing course can be far more difficult and far more expensive. Before we review those states, there is an important misconception worth understanding. Many retirees look at a single tax rate and assume they know the full financial picture. They do not. Retirement costs rarely arrive in one obvious bill. They arrive in layers, and those layers often create the biggest surprises of all today alone. And if the difference can really be thousands of dollars every year, the next question becomes impossible to ignore. Why does this happen in the first place?
Why so many retirees miss this costly reality. One of the biggest reasons retirees get caught off guard by rising expenses is surprisingly simple. They focus on the wrong numbers. For decades, most people are trained to think about income. They think about their salary, their savings balance, their investment returns, and eventually their Social Security benefits. By the time retirement arrives, that habit is deeply ingrained. As a result, many retirees approach retirement planning with a question that seems perfectly reasonable. How much money will I have coming in every month? While that question matters, it is only half of the equation. The other half is how much money will be quietly flowing out every month, often in ways that are difficult to predict. This is where a common assumption begins to create problems. Many retirees believe that a state with low income taxes automatically equals a low-cost retirement. At first glance, that sounds logical. If the government takes less of your money, you should have more left to spend. But the surprising reality is that taxes are often only one piece of a much larger financial puzzle. A state may have favorable income tax policies while simultaneously exposing retirees to higher property taxes, rising insurance premiums, expensive healthcare services, or elevated housing costs. In some cases, retirees save a few $100s in one area only to lose several thousand in another. That is why focusing on a single tax category can create a false sense of security. Another assumption is just as common. Many people believe remaining in the same state where they spent their working years is automatically the safest financial choice. After all, they know the area, they understand the local economy, and they have built relationships there. Familiarity feels comfortable, but familiarity does not always equal affordability. The state that worked well during peak earning years may become far less attractive when living on a fixed income. A retiree earning a substantial salary may barely notice certain expenses. Once that salary disappears, those same expenses can suddenly feel much larger. Consider homeowners insurance. During working years, an annual premium increase may feel like a minor inconvenience. In retirement, repeated increases can gradually consume a larger share of monthly income. The same principle applies to property taxes, utility costs, healthcare expenses, and maintenance costs. Individually, none of these bills may seem alarming. Together, they can create a completely different retirement experience. This is where contrast becomes important. Most retirees think state income tax is the main issue. The reality is that property taxes, homeowners, insurance, healthcare costs, and everyday living expenses often have a greater impact on long-term retirement finances. A retiree might save $1,000 through favorable tax treatment, yet spend $3,000 more on insurance and housing-related costs. On paper, the tax situation looks attractive. In practice, the household budget tells a different story. What makes these expenses especially dangerous is the way they compound over time. A small increase during 1 year may seem manageable. Another increase the following year may still feel tolerable. But when costs continue rising year after year, the cumulative effect becomes significant. $500 here, $800 there. Another increase next year. Then another. Before long, thousands of dollars that could have supported travel, family activities, emergency savings, or future healthcare needs have disappeared into recurring expenses. Many retirees discover this too late because there is no single moment when the financial impact becomes obvious. Instead, retirement purchasing power slowly erodes. The process is gradual, which makes it easy to overlook. That is exactly why understanding total retirement costs is so important. Looking beyond taxes allows retirees to evaluate the complete financial picture rather than focusing on a single piece of it. Awareness creates options. Ignoring these hidden costs often limits them. That pattern explains why some retirement destinations look affordable initially, yet become expensive later on. And once you begin looking at retirement through that wider lens, a surprising pattern starts to emerge. Certain states consistently create challenges that many retirees never expect. Once you understand how these hidden costs work, it's easier to see why the first state on our list catches so many retirees off guard. State number 1, the high-cost retirement trap. The first state on our list is California, a place that attracts retirees from across the country with its mild climate, scenic coastline, and endless lifestyle options. Many people spend years imagining retirement there, and for good reason. The weather can be appealing. Family may live nearby, and communities often offer activities that support an active retirement. But beneath that attractive image lies a financial reality many newcomers underestimate badly. For this example, imagine a retired couple named David and Susan. They have paid off most major debts, receive Social Security benefits, and withdraw modest amounts from retirement accounts. Together, they believe their finances are solid because they planned carefully during their working years. Before moving, they focus primarily on quality of life, whether recreation and proximity to loved ones. Those priorities are understandable, but they overlook several critical expenses. At first, nothing seems alarming. Their property taxes appear manageable, their utility bills look reasonable, and their monthly spending stays close to budget. Yet over time, small costs begin stacking. On top of one another, housing expenses remain higher than expected. Maintenance costs increase regularly and every day. Purchases often cost more than they anticipated. Groceries, transportation, services, dining, and entertainment all carry premiums that gradually reduce financial flexibility each year. Healthcare becomes another important factor. Many retirees estimate medical costs using current expenses rather than future realities. As they age, appointments, prescriptions, specialist visits, and insurance premiums can rise steadily. Even modest increases spread across 12 months create meaningful pressure on fixed income. Budgets, what once seemed like a comfortable financial cushion, begin shrinking. Little by little, forcing tougher decisions about spending priorities, travel plans, family support, and term goals. The challenge is not necessarily one massive bill that appears overnight. Instead, the problem develops gradually, which makes it harder to notice. That is why many retirees discover the issue only after living there for several years. They wonder why their income feels tighter, despite having similar savings to friends elsewhere. The overlooked detail is that recurring expenses quietly compound month after month, year after year, reducing purchasing power significantly. Suppose David and Susan spend an extra $200 each month on housing-related expenses, another $100 on insurance increases, and $100 on higher daily living costs. That alone equals $400 every month across a full year. The total reaches $4,800 before accounting for additional healthcare expenses, unexpected repairs, or service fee increases. The impact can easily exceed expectations. This is where many relocation decisions go wrong. People often focus on obvious benefits. They picture sunny mornings, nearby grandchildren, favorite restaurants, and enjoyable hobbies. Those factors certainly matter. Retirement should include quality of life. However, when lifestyle considerations completely overshadow affordability concerns, financial stress can follow later. The expensive mistake is assuming that today's budget will remain stable regardless of location choices or future economic conditions and inflation trends. Another reason retirees get caught off guard is that moving costs themselves can create commitment. Once someone purchases a home, establishes healthcare providers, builds social connections, and settles into a community, relocating again becomes difficult. Emotionally, financially, and logistically, because of that reality, many people tolerate higher expenses longer than expected, hoping costs will stabilize. Unfortunately, that does not always happen, particularly in areas where demand remains strong for housing. California remains attractive for many retirees, and every situation is different. Some households can comfortably absorb higher expenses because they possess substantial assets, pensions, or other income sources. The key point is awareness. Retirees deserve to understand the full financial picture before making major decisions. When expectations match reality, planning becomes easier and unpleasant surprises become less likely. Over time, that knowledge helps protect income, preserve flexibility, and support confidence. For retirees evaluating potential destinations, the lesson is simple. Look beyond the postcard image and examine the complete cost structure. Consider property taxes, healthcare, housing insurance, and everyday expenses together, rather than separately. A location that seems affordable in one category may become expensive when every factor is combined. Understanding that bigger picture helps explain why California catches so many retirees off guard and why careful analysis matters so much. State number 2. The hidden tax and insurance problem. The second state on our list is Florida, and that may come as a surprise to many retirees. After all, Florida is often promoted as one of the most retirement-friendly places in America. There is no state income tax. Warm weather attracts millions of residents, and countless retirement communities market the state as an ideal destination for life after work. Those advantages are real. However, they can sometimes distract retirees from a different set of expenses that have become increasingly difficult to ignore. The issue is not necessarily what retirees pay in state income tax. The issue is what they may end up paying elsewhere. Consider two retired couples with nearly identical finances. One couple lives in Florida. The other lives in a state with moderate taxes but lower insurance and property-related costs. On paper, many people would immediately assume the Florida couple comes out ahead because they avoid state income taxes. The reality can be far more complicated. Imagine that both couples receive $70,000 per year from Social Security, retirement accounts, and other income sources. The Florida couple saves money by avoiding state income taxes, but they face rapidly rising homeowners insurance premiums, higher flood-related coverage costs in some regions, increasing association fees, and growing property maintenance expenses. Meanwhile, the couple in the comparison state pays some state income tax, but their insurance costs remain significantly lower and their ongoing housing expenses are more predictable. At first, the differences may appear small. Perhaps the Florida couple pays an additional $150 per month for insurance. Maybe association fees are another $100 higher. Property-related expenses add another $100. Individually, none of these figures seem overwhelming, but retirement budgets are rarely affected by just one expense. When those costs are combined, the household may spend an additional $350 every month. Over a year, that becomes $4,200. Add a few unexpected increases, repairs, or policy adjustments, and the annual difference can easily exceed $5,000. This is exactly why many retirees miscalculate the true cost of living. They focus heavily on purchase prices and tax rates while paying far less attention to ownership costs. A home may appear affordable when viewed through the lens of its selling price, yet the ongoing expenses attached to that property often tell a completely different story. That overlooked detail catches many people off guard. A retiree might spend months researching neighborhoods, comparing home values, and evaluating local amenities. They may calculate mortgage-free living and estimate future utility costs, but they never fully examine how insurance trends, maintenance expenses, homeowner association fees, and property-related charges could evolve over the next decade. As a result, the budget that looked comfortable during the planning stage slowly becomes more restrictive after the move. The challenge becomes even greater because these increases often arrive gradually. There is rarely a single moment when retirees realize something is wrong. Instead, annual renewals become more expensive. Service costs rise. Repairs cost more than expected. Insurance notices arrive with higher premiums. Each increase seems manageable on its own. Together, they create meaningful pressure on a fixed income. That is why comparing states requires a broader perspective. The smartest retirement decisions are usually based on total costs rather than a single financial advantage. A state can offer appealing tax benefits, while simultaneously introducing expenses that offset much of the expected savings. None of this means Florida is the wrong choice. For many retirees, it remains an excellent fit. The lesson is simply that retirement planning becomes far more accurate when every recurring expense is evaluated alongside taxes. Awareness matters because assumptions can be expensive. Many retirees discover that lesson only after they have already relocated and built their lives around expectations that no longer match reality. The goal is not to avoid any particular state. The goal is understanding trade-offs before retirement decisions become permanent and before flexibility becomes limited later on. And if those costs seem high, wait until you see the third state, because this is where many retirees face the biggest financial shock. State number 3, New York. The third state on our list is New York. For many retirees, New York combines several costly factors at the same time. Housing expenses can be substantial. Property taxes can be significant in many communities. Healthcare costs and overall living expenses often remain elevated compared with more retirement-friendly locations. The overlooked factor is that these costs rarely stay flat. They tend to increase over time. A retiree losing $5,000 annually isn't just losing $5,000. Over 10 years, that's potentially $50,000 or more that could have supported travel, healthcare needs, family goals, or financial security. The good news is that retirees aren't powerless. The smartest retirees evaluate total retirement costs rather than focusing only on taxes. They compare healthcare expenses, research, insurance trends, stress tests, their retirement budgets, and think carefully about long-term affordability before making relocation decisions. Awareness today can save thousands tomorrow. Ultimately, retirement success isn't just about how much you've saved. It's about how much of that money you actually get to keep. Many retirees discover these hidden costs after they've already moved and built their retirement lifestyle around assumptions that no longer match reality. The most important retirement question may not be how much you've saved, but how much of your income your state allows you to keep year after year. The real retirement question most people never ask. When most people think about retirement, they focus on a single number: how much money they have saved. Well, that number certainly matters. Today's discussion highlights a reality that many retirees discover only after it's too late. Where you choose to live can have a major impact on how far your retirement income actually goes. The challenge is that these costs rarely appear all at once. Instead, higher insurance premiums, property-related expenses, healthcare costs, and everyday living expenses gradually build over time. What seems manageable during the first year of retirement can become much more difficult after several years of rising costs. That's why it's important to look beyond tax headlines and evaluate the complete financial picture before making major retirement decisions. The most important retirement question may not be how much you've saved, but how much of your income your state allows you to keep year after year. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What state are you retired in? And have retirement costs been higher or lower than you expected? Share your experience in the comments below.